So I'll start off with some 140 ultra thread in black, and I'm just going to start right behind the eye and capture my thread and snip that out. I'll leave a little bit of room there. So I got a parachute post in large, and I want a little bit sticking out on each side, probably about 1/8 of an inch, maybe a little bit more. So I'm going to snip off a piece of my foam, and I can always trim that up a little bit later on, but I'm basically just going to try and have it, make a couple loose wraps. Capture that on there, just like I would tie on dumbbell eyes. The foam's a little bit tougher to work with. So then I can crank down on it a little bit. Make sure I'm not capturing too much of the foam. So keep making those figure 8 wraps. And make some U-wraps. Some crazy loops here. And got my eyes secured in there. So now I can work my thread back to just right about past where the actual point of the hook is, and we're gonna leave, you know, some space back here. We'll start off with a piece of fire orange or fluorescent orange blood quill. So I've already kind of prepped this one, so I'm gonna give it a little bit of body here. I'll go ahead and capture that, gather it up. And secure that down. Same thing, kind of work the rest of that up to behind my eyes. Snip that out. So I tie in the marabou like this to start, so that when I palmer this other piece in here, it's really going to give it a nice like pulsy movement in the water. Before I do that though, I'm going to take a couple strands of crystal flash and I'm going to add those in there. So I just got a nice piece of pearl crystal flash here and have that on my thread, and work that back to where I tied in my marabou. So we'll do a piece on each side. And I'm not going to trim those until I get that other piece of marabou in there. I might do one more little strand on top, you know, a little bit of flash never hurt anybody. Do one more strip. We're going to put this one right on top of the fly. And bring my wraps back to where the marabou starts. So So got my crystal flash tied in there. One's really long. Need another one. Now I got another piece of marabou prepped here. So this one I'm gonna palmer. Yeah, pull some of those fibers back. Make some loose wraps. And bring it back to where tied in the other piece of marabou. And I'll snip out my tag here. Clean that up. Bring my thread back up, and I'll do a quick whip finish. Try not to trap anything. Just behind the eye here. Don't trap any of those fibers. And you don't have to do this. I'm just doing it so I can use my cradle here. Makes life a little easier when palmering marabou. So go start wrapping. Try not to trap any of those. Trap any marabou here. Keep teasing that out as I work my way up. Once I got it, with a little bit of space left behind the foam eyes there, take my thread, and pull everything back. And capture the marabou. And pull everything back. Then I can snip out my quill here. So I get that kind of secured in there, kind of pull everything back. Make some wraps going back about 1/4 of an inch or so. Now I'll take my brush, kind of pluck out all those loose ones. And I'll clean up these loose fibers. Now kind of know where the end of my marabou's at, so I can trim out my crystal flash here. So that's just going to be, you know, about as long as the palmered marabou is. So that's looking pretty good. Now take some black marabou blood quills. So when I'm selecting my marabou, you know, I'm looking for feathers that will kind of match up size-wise, because there's just kind of an assortment of different size, you know, lengths of the quill. So trying to find a good size that'll fit up, match up to the rest of the fly. And I kind of want, you know, this black to cover up the orange, but I want the orange to be sticking out. So I'm going to put this in there and palmer this piece of marabou as well. Make some wraps and trim out my tag there. This one I think I'm just gonna wrap. Try not to trap too many of them here. A pair of hackle pliers helps. Same thing, trying to tease out some of those trap fibers. Make one more turn here. Marabou. And I'll capture it with my thread. Just right behind those booby eyes. You know, I think the booby is super popular in Europe and the UK. A lot of stillwater fishing out there. Buzzers and boobies. Then once again, kind of take my brush, pull everything back. And just right behind those booby eyes, build up a little bit of a thread base. Sure none of those quills are trapped in there. Comb them out. So you see it's kind of got some real bulk to it, and without, you know, adding that first piece of marabou in there, it would just kind of lay super slim. So especially when it gets wet, and marabou gets wet, lays down really fat. So if you got a lot of body or a lot of bulk, it really shows up nicely. Kind of puffs and pulses like that in the water. So once I get everything kind of situated the way I want, I'm going to take my whip finish, make sure all these fibers stay pulled back. I'm going to whip finish behind my foam eyes there. And snip out my tying thread. So finish this fly off. I'm gonna take a Sharpie, just a black Sharpie. I'm just gonna dot, make some eyes. Then I'm gonna build up a little bit of a head here with the Solares. So I'll start with some on my bodkin here. Make sure everything's pulled back. And then I'm just gonna keep hitting it with the UV. Cure it up. Just make a little bit of a hard head on this sucker. Pluck that one out of there. Then the bottom, same thing. A little bit more Solares. Nice big glob. Then hit it again with the UV. And I'll go a little bit more. Just progressively, you know, building up a little bit of bulk. Also makes the foam last a little bit longer. texture thread wraps. You know, the UV stuff. It's a great finisher for almost any fly. Spin it a little bit. Add a little bit more top here. Trim out that little piece in a minute. Now those booby eyes are not going to spin around on you. Trim out some of those trapped pieces. Add a little bit more of the Solares. Working our way out. There it is. Fire booby.